Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining. It's Wednesday, the 9th of June, 8 a.m. here in Melbourne. I'm joined today by Bill Davoren to talk about high performance culture and how to build one. Bill, good morning.
Morning, Dave.
How are you today?
Very well, thank you.
Good stuff. So by way of introductions, for those that are first-time joinees, my name's David Webley from Conversations with Thought Leaders. I'm also the managing director of a business called Granite Consulting. So we're talent experts. There's really interesting things happening in the world of talent acquisition at the moment. It's the busiest market I've seen since Y2K. Feel free to message me if you want to have a conversation around some of the trends we're seeing there in the market and some of the challenges that we're certainly seeing with the lack of skills coming into Australia for sure. Before we get into it, by way of a brief bio on Bill, so for the last 30 years or so, Bill's been working in the world of high performance across Olympic, individual and team sports, as well as the professional sporting codes. Some of his many career highlights include leading teams to win numerous medals across 3 Olympics, several Commonwealth Games and World Championships. He's been the high performance director for Triathlon Australia, elite development director for Hockey Australia, and held high performance lead roles in AFL with St Kilda, Collingwood and the Western Bulldogs. Currently, Bill is the high performance lead at the Australian Institute of Sport, leading a redesign of an integrated national high performance framework to enhance the capabilities and capacities of the Australian elite coaching workforce across all Olympic sports. So coaching the coach, if you will. So Bill, welcome to Conversations with Thought Leaders. And maybe we can start by, could you share a bit around your backstory, please?
Yeah, look, thanks, Dave. I mean, as you've indicated already, you've given away my allegiance with the state of origin. Yeah, I grew up in Sydney. Pretty typical upbringing. Played lots of sports, spent a lot of time on the beach. Probably had wanted to be a great athlete, but didn't have the skills and ability. So that led me pursuing school teaching. So I actually was a school teacher originally out of Sydney University. I spent a number of years teaching, and coaching. That's where I started to get involved in the concept of coaching young kids. Really got motivated by that as a potential career path. We're talking late 80s now. There wasn't a lot of professional coaching opportunities at that time. Yeah. Decided to do further study, pursuing, I suppose, the fledgling area of sports science and coaching as a study piece. Headed over to Calgary in Canada. Spent a couple of years there doing a master's degree, which really opened up my world to high performance sport. Got involved with Canadian swimming as a grunt, just doing, helping out in the sports science area. Was involved in lots of different activities over there. Got exposed to even things like ice hockey, stuff like that, which was a completely different mindset for me. Returned from Canada in the early 90s and by chance fell upon an opportunity in Tasmania. Yeah. So I actually headed down to Tassie in early 90s to work at the Tasmanian Institute of Sport. Yeah. And that was a really pivotal moment for me because it was building something from scratch, something that was completely fresh, not a lot in place, and that opened up a whole bunch of opportunities. Simultaneously to working there, I sort of got involved in coaching, and that started the journey again. I ended up, working with a young boy down there who, just by chance, and he ended up being my first Olympian, the one that I went to the first Olympic Games with in Sydney. Didn't get a great result there, but it was an eye opener. Then look, within a couple of years, you've already alluded, was Triathlon Australia Performance Director and Head Coach. 7 or 8 years there. Footy, chased the... Look, it was really hard. I mean, I spent 2 years away, virtually in my time in triathlon. I was in Europe up to 2 years of those 7 or 8 years. So came back to Australia primarily to settle down a little bit. Yeah. So AFL for a whole bunch of time, and then, hockey, and now with AIS. So yeah, been a great life so far and a great career so far from a personal point of view.
Yeah, fantastic. Interesting to hear you talk about teaching because Eddie Jones, who's currently the England rugby coach and obviously a famous Australian coach, he started his career as a teacher moving into coaching. So can you just talk a little bit around how you think teaching as a foundation for coaching helped?
Yeah, look, it's interesting you say that. There were a lot of school teachers that have infiltrated the coaching ranks over the years. It's especially through the 80s and 90s and into the early part of the 2000s, a lot of us came from teaching backgrounds. Yeah. How does it help? Look, I always felt if you can manage a class of 35-year-olds, you can do anything, especially when you've got no boundaries. You know, it's all right being, I was a phys ed teacher, and it was all right when you've got them in the four walls. Yeah. But I remember the first time talking about doing a warm-up and didn't give really explicit instructions. And I talked about running to a point, and they just took off. I had them all spread all over the place. I had to go around collecting them from all parts of an oval. So it was quite interesting. I think, you know, if you can manage 5-year-olds, I think you can do anything. If you can manage teenage boys, I think that's the next layer. You know, that 13 to 15-year-old bracket can be quite interesting. I had some funny experiences. I actually taught some of our famous AFL players that went on a journey.
Okay.
One of them, I was involved in a number of Anzac Day games, and I taught this young gentleman when he was about year 5.
Okay.
I was walking down the race to go to the MCG down to the car park, and a car pulled up to me on Anzac Day one day, and he said, "G'day, Mr. Davoren." So that made me feel really old. So there you go. I think he played about 350 games, that person. So yeah, look, it was a good career, but it opened up a whole learning, organisation, thinking, preparation, planning, you know, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. That resonates with me because I coach my daughter's under 10 basketball team. So, you know, you're trying to organise the team and then also, you know, contribute to the parents and game time. So there's all sorts of stuff. So, yeah, I think particularly with homeschooling in the last 18 months or so, yes, we've all got an even greater respect for the teaching profession amongst us.
Yeah, look, it's a profession that I hold in very high esteem and underpaid and underappreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. So how would you define high performance? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I try and approach things from a very simple point of view. So I in some of my answers may be too simple for some people, but look, for me, it's really simple in the sense that it's just a method of thinking and operating that's focused on sort of performance or excellence for results. Yep. So, you know, if you reflect on that, thinking and operating, you know, it's about results and it's about excellence. That's the essence of it to me. It's really simple. If you look at it, it's something that's dynamic. Like it's always evolving. It's always moving. There's things that, you know, if there are things inside that I can, you know, dig deeper in, things like mindsets, processes, goals, behaviors, values, you know, the environment, they're all the essence of a high performance piece.
Yeah.
But there's also this concept about being disciplined. You know, it's done in a disciplined way, it's done in a coherent way, and it's done logically. So I think that's high performance to me.
Yeah. So you've got to put all the things together, all the different ingredients, and then that results in the outcome.
Really simply, I think, you know, it's that thinking and operating. If you really put it into two themes, they're the two.
Yeah. Okay. Thinking and operating. Cool. And so if you get into, you're talking quite a few things there around the discipline and, you know, some of the other bits and pieces, the mindset. So if there were 2 or 3 absolute non-negotiables, you know, what do you think they would be? Because I was listening to a really good podcast with Gareth Southgate, the England manager, and he was talking about high performance mindset and the non-negotiables. And he was really saying that talent gets you into the room, but that's kind of only the start of it all.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard some of Gareth's concepts in a number of, and read some stuff. Yeah. For me, look, I've got 4 things that I probably see as the non-negotiables. I think vision. I think you've got to know what is it you're trying to do. What does the pathway look like? So I think there has to be a really clear vision. And there's there has to be, you know, a real understanding of what you're trying to do and what's possible. I think the people factor is non-negotiable. You know, I've alluded, you know, in sport, the fundamental thing in sport is you've got to have the talent. Yeah. There's an old saying about having the cattle, so to speak. It's you know, an analogy for talent. If you haven't got talent, you know, from that point of view, so people to me are crucial. You build that out in a high performance organisation or in sport. Start with athletes. You go to coaches. You go to support staff. You go to administration. You know, and it goes right out. And we might talk about that a little bit later. I mean, obviously, culture is a non-negotiable. And look, there's a fourth thing for me, and that is the environment. And that can be the physical environment. It can be we talk about in sport the daily training environment, which is the process of actually training. Yeah. So I think the environment can be, it's relevant across all sort of areas, but I think environment's really crucial.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be the four.
Yeah, fantastic. Just on talent, if we can just get into that for a minute, because I think that's a really interesting, because we've all seen examples of wasted talent, but then people who have got good levels of talent and really hard work. And Alex Ferguson used to say, hard work is a talent.
Yep.
So what can you speak to around the balance between talent and application?
Yeah, look, it's a really fine line. I mean, I've crossed over all sorts of things, from some amazingly elite talent to, and on the other end of the spectrum, I've seen people that have been less talented but incredibly disciplined, incredibly professional, and they have had amazing careers off the back of that, and successful careers. There's an old adage about talent that works will beat talent every day, and I think that's the ultimate. You're actually looking for that combination of elite talent that is prepared to work to the highest level. That's the ultimate. That's when you're starting to talk about really special types of people. People that have incredibly successful careers, that are consistently, winning. I think that's the upper echelon of what we all strive for. But the reality is that they're very few and far between.
Yeah.
The bulk of the people that you deal with tend to move down the spectrum, right down to that piece where you've got people that are simply less talented, and that's not being. They're just less naturally gifted, but they find a way. They just find a way to put themselves in the arena.
Yeah.
And they find a way how to be competitive, and they find a way how to win. And I love those people. I've got to admit, I've got a real soft spot for those people. They give me great pleasure. They're a different type of beast in terms of a simple thing, but there's a spectrum, and you can win with anyone on that spectrum if you've got the right combination of things.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess particularly when you start to talk about team sports, then you still need to be talented. But I remember seeing, say, the Michael Jordan docu-series last year, where he's, there's only one Michael Jordan, but you need other players around him. Or, Ferguson used to speak about the balance of his teams and doing a job for the team. So you think as you get into team sports, then the sort of elite talent levels is maybe wound back a bit as being that team environment?
Yeah, look, I think my time in team sports, there's a real fine balance between the talent and the role players, and that variety of different layers. You need people that are willing to do, the norm. People that are prepared to sacrifice. In football, in the AFL world, there are people that get asked to, sacrifice their natural tendencies, their natural styles, and their own goals to actually play a role for the team. And I think that's the essence of a team. If you look at the Los Angeles Lakers at the moment, I mean, effectively they've just gone out in the first round of the playoffs and a lot of the talk is that they didn't have a third player. They only effectively had two really highly talented players, but the supporting cast wasn't good enough. Whereas last year they probably had a little bit more depth in their supporting cast. So that's a classic example of, you can have the best talent in a Anthony Davis and a LeBron James, but unless they've got something around them to complement them and actually bring out their best, the team falls short. There are some amazing stories in sport of teams that have got less talent, but have been able to come together and perform on the basis of other factors. So it's a really interesting one, how you identify talent, and look, there's a piece here we may not get into, but it's around the characteristics of the people that you actually put in your team.
Yeah.
That is a huge piece that reflects a really functioning team.